Now, whether you're a longtime anime and manga fan, new to the concept of anime and manga, or trying to get into it, I think this is a good video for everybody. This is hopefully going to be a pretty simple video of me talking about deciding what's the right anime and manga for you, and kind of giving an overall just talk about the whole thing. Before starting the channel, anime and mangas had a relatively decent impact on my life, regardless. A lot of the themes and messages that I learned from the anime I watched when I was younger has definitely carried on to my life to this day. In fact, my social life has also been pretty impacted, as a lot of the friends that I met, we were able to bond over things like anime and manga. And then, as you can imagine, the impact this would all have on my life was even made greater when I started the channel, and well, we are where we are today. So once again, I'm always very grateful for that. But once again, what is the real point of this video? I want to kind of give an overall basis look on what is anime and manga, and really trying to show all of the different options and sides to it. Essentially, it's kind of like a buffet. I'm just leading you to your table. Now, I did expand upon this point a whole lot more when I did my video talking about the truth about shonen versus seinen, and that is, there's seems to be a really bad misconception when it comes to shonen and seinen. In the beginning of that video, I referred to the two as genres on purpose to kind of get you affiliated with that term, and the first point is that they're not genres, they're demographics. To put it into perspective, not all shonen are the same, and not all seinen are the same. If you need any examples of this, One Punch Man is a seinen, Attack on Titan is a shonen, Claymore is a shonen, Chainsaw Man's a shonen, Kaguya-sama is a seinen. Essentially what I'm trying to get at is the demographic name in and of itself really only shows that there's a target audience for which this manga was published in. So again, one should not simply just look at shonen and seinen and then try to attribute things solely to these things. Shonen are not only battle shonen, and not all seinen are dark and gritty and you know what. The only thing I will say is that usually shonen things, or things that are published in a shonen magazine, do kind of have a limit to how adult they can get, again, due to the target audience that they have. And because of that, that doesn't mean that shonen is inherently inferior. To make this point very, very clear, shonen and seinen many times do cover similar themes when you look at it past the surface level. The main difference is the presentation of those themes. Now, I know there's shoujo and stuff like that, but I don't have too much experience in those realms. There's also manhwas and stuff like that. So if you are interested in those things, feel free to kind of dabble in that if you want. So now that I've brought the menus to the tables, let's talk about it. Now, there's a message I'm really trying to get to with all of this, and I'll just say it now. Essentially, everybody is different. Should be a pretty obvious point, but one a lot of people forget at times. The things that might intrigue you about a series will also be the same thing that actually turns people off about that series. And even though I try to do the best when I look at a series and kind of distinguish the quality that I think and the effort behind the writing versus my own personal feelings, at the end of the day, there is a huge amount of subjectivity that plays into the enjoyment of a series and truly just how much you take away from it all. Everybody's gonna have opinions when it comes to things. The only thing I ask of a person at the end of the day is that they can explain their opinions and show me their reasoning. However, again, that is in the context when talking about a subjective thing like art and interpreting art. If they were to say something like, well, in my opinion, Guts isn't the protagonist of Berserk, I'm sorry if that's your opinion, but you might be wrong on that one. But I think the best place to start is where I started, and that's going back a little bit in time. The first series I ever got into was Dragon Ball Z. Then I proceeded to get into Naruto and Death Note, and then eventually Magi and Seven Deadly Sins. And this is where I want to really touch on the fact that there is nothing wrong with liking these series. There's nothing wrong with getting into these series first. These are all series that are extremely entertaining and capable of providing life lessons to a younger audience and even an older audience that they can carry with them for the rest of their life. I won't get into each series individually, as you can point out all of the great things and all of the flaws about the series, but that's not the point of this video. And again, here I'm not trying to overgeneralize all shonen in general, but for the sake of this point, I'm going to say shonen because I do think a lot of shonen series have this in strength, and that's escapism. When you look at series like JJK, Demon Slayer, Naruto, Dragon Ball, Bleach, One Piece, say what you want, and again, devoid of your own feelings about the series, because I know everybody has different opinions on each of these series, very strong ones, mind you. When it's all said and done, you will find one of these series entertaining, most likely, or you did at some point in your life. And that's the important thing I'm trying to kind of present here. If you were like me at the time when I got into a lot of these series, then you're probably in high school, and after school, after whatever issues you were going on at school or even at home for some people, the last thing you need is a story reminding you of all of that. That's why we turn to entertainment. That's why some of you are probably watching this video. It's a form of entertainment for where you're able to kind of escape the world for a minute and just enjoy yourself. Now, that's not to say seinen aren't capable of this as well. Kaguya-sama is once again a great example of this. Every series tackles escapism in different ways with different strengths. If you're somebody who's looking for a long-term adventure where the world is being expanded upon, then a series like One Piece is ideal. If you're somebody who's really into cool designs, amazing fights, and subtlety with the themes of its characters, then Bleach is a great series for you. And if you're somebody who's into this grand underdog story with characters with very strong philosophies and amazingly choreographed fights, well then Naruto was probably for you. Hopefully you see what I did there. I just brought to you the big three. The big three was a little bit of a phenomena when it came to the anime and manga world, as when it came to manga and anime, especially here in the US, or at least in the West I should say, it was probably one of these three series that broke you into anime outside of Dragon Ball Z. Mainstream appeal. Certain series, when you're getting into anime and manga, you might realize do have a little bit more of a mainstream tone and feel to them due to the style in which the anime and manga is done, and again, that has to do, I think, with the demographic it's targeted for. Certain series have a much wider range of ages that it can cover versus other series. You can realistically market and sell Bleach for a 12-year-old and for a 25-year-old. You can realistically sell Pun Pun to a 25-year-old, but most likely not to a 12-year-old. And so really what I'm trying to present with this wide range of selling when it comes to the ages is there's so many different varieties of series within shonen. You have Naruto, you have Bleach, you have One Piece, which are so different from each other, it's ridiculous. And then you also have series that have come after that, My Hero, Black Clover, JJK, Demon Slayer. All of these things that bring stuff to the table, whether that be great characters, great fights, or sometimes just entertainment. Be it so many people are only capable of looking at the surface level commonalities and then just say that they're all the same and rip-offs of one another, when that's not the case whatsoever. You have other series that are really predicated on mystery, like Attack on Titan, and then you have sports series, some of the most beautifully drawn and illustrated, like Slam Dunk, and then ones with very strong casts, like Haikyuu. There's really so much to offer on this side of the table that I think simply just not wanting to get into these series due to whatever kind of crappy elitist mentality is out there is just stupid. A lot of these series are capable of providing some of the best characters in anime and manga, period. It's not just seinen that do this. A lot of these series are capable of providing really well done and fleshed out themes. You just gotta find the right series for you. But now, let's move on to the other side of the table, and more so where I am today. Now, I'm a pretty overall balanced person when it comes to what I consume and what I take in when it comes to anime and manga. I think if you look at my playlist where I have shonen and seinen reviews, the number is not too far apart. However, with that being said, and this is just getting into my own personal preference, one that some of you may or may not share, I've always had really a draw to stories that are able to tackle the darker side of the human mind, the evils of humanity. What are we as people capable of doing at our worst? I don't know what the psychology behind that is, but so be it. As I brought up earlier in the video, the main difference with seinen and shonen overall is that shonen doesn't have a cap as to how far it can go with how it presents certain themes and what themes it can talk about in a marketable sense. So that's not to say that shonen don't have substance. A lot of them have a lot of substance, and this is a personal thing for me. It may or may not apply to you, but when I talk about the stories that have impacted me the most as an individual and have really brought me to look within myself have been seinen series, quote unquote. But mentioned at the beginning of this segment, when people throw out the term edgy, many times it's used incorrectly. Edgy can only really refer to the aesthetic of a story more so than the actual story itself, again, as seinen really strives off of the presentation of graphic images to be able to impact an audience greatly when it comes to the conveying of an emotion or of a theme. However, when it comes to the actual narrative, and in fact some of the themes within the story, the reason why they do get so dark is many times to contrast some of the brilliant lighter moments within the series. And this is why, once again, seinen tend to be targeted towards an older demographic. It's because not only what they cover at times, but the way that they depict what they cover. But let me make it clear, this does not inherently make seinen as a whole superior. You have to look at each individual series for what it does and what it is. But with my experience, I have found, once again, that a lot of the series that I've been able to take the most beautiful and impactful messages, some of the greatest characters, some of the greatest works of art, period, in manga have come from seinen. And even though I would say I'm relatively young, I am older, a lot older now than I was when I first got into Dragon Ball Z. Even though I still appreciate escapism, and there are many times I still turn to series just for entertainment, there are times where I do like to be conflicted and confronted with my own inner thoughts and my own inner feelings. And honestly, a lot of these series do come off as uncomfortable and unsettling at times, but I think that's the purpose. And if you're somebody who's turned off by stuff like that, then that's fine. Like I said, this is all a preference thing. However, if you aren't, then I think you're truly going to really benefit from a lot of these series. Essentially, not all seinen are just edgy, and you shouldn't only look at them for the dark tone that they can present, just like you shouldn't only look at shonen and think cliche and generic. The thing to keep in mind though is these series are targeted to an older audience, and I think with that being in mind, a lot of these series have to have certain, I would say, level of realisticness or capability of presenting these themes in a way that would be appealing for adults more so. And again, that's not to say that shonen aren't capable for this as well. In fact, me and my homie Broken Ronin plan on doing a video kind of discussing the shift and evolution of the shonen demographic as of recently. But when you think of some of the most complex narratives ever, it would make sense that a large majority of them would come from a magazine that's targeted towards older people. A series like Monster would not thrive in a weekly Shonen Jump series. I don't think it would be able to keep the amount of attention in that type of magazine. Again, despite the quality of the series, if you notice weekly Shonen Jump, it's weekly. They have to keep sales up. They have to keep the audience entertained from a week-to-week basis. They can't really afford to have a slow burn narrative without the huge entertainment factor from, again, a weekly series. Monthly shonen, that's a little bit different. But look at anything written by Naoki Urasawa, anything written by Asano. These are series that are all-time really masterpieces and great works of art, but yet are slow burn series that require a relatively strong capability of being willing to stick with a series and an attention span, right? So again, this is not to say anybody's superior or inferior. However, some people, they just don't like that. Some of these stories might come off as just flat out boring, and even though I can understand that for being a reason you drop a series, I don't think you should then turn around and go call the series overrated or bad just because you solely found it boring. Essentially, I think these series are capable of providing some of the greatest things out there when it comes to anime and manga, period. However, simply not for everybody. I think a series like Evangelion, one that I covered recently, should be a relatively good example. Now, I don't know whether it's shonen or seinen, so mind you, but that's a series that some people consider a masterpiece, a series that other people think is absolutely overrated and garbage. I think it is a great series. I think it's a classic. However, it's a pretty easy series, I would say, to hate due to kind of the slow presentation of things at times. And also Shinji, although I think a great character, is one that I really would want to punch in the face. So is almost a lot of the other characters in the series as well. But essentially, this all goes back to the point in the beginning. What I might like won't be the same as what you might like, and what you might like won't be the same as what I like. And so if you're somebody who's going about this anime and manga journey, whether new, old, kind of in the middle, I suggest you try out all these different types of things and come up with your own conclusions, be it shonen or seinen. Read the things that you like, get into series that have things that you like, and then also try to expand and experiment and see and try new series. The best thing that could have happened to me as a content creator was me deciding to expand my reach of anime and manga, and in fact more so as a content creator, just as a fan and as a person in general. Whether that be popular series, underground series, critically acclaimed but maybe not the most mainstream, maybe a little more mainstream, shonen, seinen, shoujo, so be it. You should enjoy what you enjoy, and other people should enjoy what they enjoy. Again, not looking at the argument of what's better, what isn't better. That's a completely different debate. That's not the point of this video. But if you are someone who's interested in maybe some series and some recommendations, I will be linking down a playlist below where I do kind of do all of my manga reviews. That way you can kind of scroll through that and see what series you might be interested in. And it's also kind of interesting maybe to see the evolution of a content creator like me and seeing how I talked about series early on versus now. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, that way you know notified whenever a new video pops up on some of your favorite anime, manga, or whatever content. As always, this has been the Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.